I want to see you get out there with a cool van and, live your dream.
Come have a seat while I tell you about the craziest and most unexpected blessing that I have experienced during van life so far.
Between clean sheets.
I'm Cheyenne, and earlier this year I quit my entire life in Washington, D.C. I now live in this van, and I travel the United States to watch soccer at every level, men's and women's, and I make fan POV content. Importing into Washington State presented its own set of challenges, even though it meant I got my van sooner. And for more information on the import process itself, you can watch one of my earlier videos. I will put it somewhere, maybe here. It was mostly that I never spent any time in the Pacific Northwest as an adult, so I didn't have any connection or network, people who I could even rely on for recommendations. I had no plans for a DIY build out because of that. I was not planning to work with wood at all. And I also didn't want to pay anyone to do a fancy build out. So I decided, and I mentioned this in my other YouTube video, that I would just take it in stride and figure it out over the next few months, that it didn't have to be anything super fancy and that I could get out of it what I needed. About 10 days after I picked up at port in Tacoma, my good friend Rocky was having his wedding in Portland. I have known Rocky for 10 years now, one of the nicest people on the planet. I met him through my MLS fantasy league, which means that at the wedding, I got to run into almost all of our other league mates. The wedding was even though all of my other friends were leaving the very next morning, I figured, what the heck, I'll go to the Sunday brunch at Rocky's parents' house. And that's where this story really kicks off. Of course, as everyone rolls up to the house, they see my van and it becomes a big topic of conversation. I am getting to know the rest of Rocky's family, who are as nice as him, if not nicer. And at one point, Rocky came up to me and said, "Hey, my Uncle Ted wants to see the van." Ted, I learn, is retired. He and his wife, Shelly, live in San Juan Capistrano. Remember that for later. And he is an avid carpenter. He's built out his 4Runner, other RVs, his boat. He's also a car guy. On top of the questions he was asking me about the HiAce in general, he also started asking me about a build out. And I explained to him the hassle of the import, how I was 3,000 miles away from all of my resources and my family. And for that reason, I had a very que sera, sera mentality. After I explained that, he literally goes, "Oh, well, that just won't do." And I said, "Okay, well, that's really my only option right now." And he said, "Well, are you coming down to California at any point this summer?" And I said, "Yes, at some point in June." And he said, "Okay, well, Shelly, my wife, and I are retired and I have time and I have the interest. I think this would be a really great project for me. Let's exchange numbers and let me know when you'll be down there, and I will help you with a build to the extent that you are comfortable. As in, whatever you want to do with it, we can accomplish that." And at that point I thought, okay, well, I definitely don't want to gut the entire thing, but I would love help with like a bed and a bench. Little did I know. A week goes by and I'm back up in Seattle and I start getting some texts. And Ted's eyes have turned into Toyota HiAces. He starts sending me diagrams, links to YouTube videos with ideas that he has, questions about measurements, and even more questions about when exactly I think I'll be in San Juan Capistrano. I had plans to be in Monterey at the beginning of June to interview someone in my van in the state that it was, which I now laugh about. And I told him I could come down after that. And as we get closer to that date, Ted finally tells me over the phone that he thinks that this should be done in 3 phases. And he really recommends, with his whole chest, just gutting the entire thing for the build out. And that is when it all hits me in the most overwhelming way. That's not because I didn't want to do it. And it's not because I didn't want to accept the insane generosity that was being presented to me. It's truly that I had resigned myself to just doing something makeshift. Yes, I upended my whole life to live in a van, but I have a really hard time with change, even if it's positive. In my heart of hearts, I wanted to do what he was suggesting, but it felt so insane to me how this all kind of transpired. And at one point, I remember in Monterey, I called my parents and I started crying because I just could not conceptualize what was ahead of me. By then, Ted had sent me some really well thought out drawings and ideas for what he thought we could accomplish in the time that we had. And though I didn't have the exact dates for phase 2 and 3, we did agree that it would be done in several phases. My parents were very kind to listen to me, and ultimately they just said, this was never going to happen any other way, and you should just embrace it for what it is. and go down and spend some time with Ted and Shelly. Now, about 48 hours before I'm going to head south, I do hop on the phone with Ted one more time, and that's when he tells me his address. And that is when I find out that I misheard him at this Sunday brunch. He did say San Juan Capistrano. I thought he said San Luis Obispo. I texted Rocky and then I said, also, you were totally right about Ted and Shelly. I thought they lived in San Luis Obispo and they do not. I'm in for a drive. He goes, ooh yeah, those cities are quite a ways apart from each other. I feel like such an idiot for correcting you. I'm so sorry. Rocky's just too nice of a person to say like, no, I'm pretty sure I know where my uncle lives. Oh well. I get a build out. I just have to buy the materials. That is such a blessing. I had planned to be in Sacramento the following weekend, so I thought, oh great, now I just get to drive 6 hours down, 6 hours back in the span of a week and just gloss over the middle part of California, which is actually beautiful. Some of it is beautiful, and I'll have to save it for next year or another time. I got in on Sunday, June 9th around 4 p.m. Ted is so stoked. No joke, by 4:30, my van was empty of all of my things. Ted was already yanking out the inside and Shelly was cooking us dinner, which she did literally every night that I was there.
This is going good. And so it has a separate heater just for this. Can you imagine ever wanting to use a whole separate heater system?
I've never cared about a passenger that much.
Does it feel like you've desecrated your little home?
A little bit.
This is the first bed I've slept in since May 4th. Oh, it feels so good.
All the things we tore out of the van need to go to the dump this morning, and then we're headed to Lowe's to buy all of the supplies that we need for phase 1. Ted has this whole thing sorted, and I truly just feel like I'm along for the ride.
Show them all the good stuff.
Most of it's hiding, but I think the most important part is the wood.
The sanded, look how pretty.
So smooth.
Van has sheet metal, and then there are these ribs that are usually like 2 or 3 inches wide and about 1.5 inches tall that are the structure.
Well, pretty good for one day's work
I'll say.
with some amateurs just playing around in the garage.
I ran to Home Depot to get more screws. I'm driving Ted's car, and it feels so weird to be on the left side of the vehicle right now.
This stuff cuts real easy. Most of it will be done with the chop saw and the table saw.
He
was like 6 weeks old.
Exactly, like Snoopy. Right here.
Are you gonna do the whole Cheyenne?
I was a bit shy.
Do people call you shy?
Sometimes. Viewer, I don't know why I lied. Literally nobody calls me that, except Ted now.
Burning plastic.
I got some sun today. We are on the last full day of phase 1. We're doing the walls and the bed bench combo. I think that's it, although that is plenty. Shelly was getting ready to leave town, so it was just us guys for one night, and at this point I've learned a few things. Ted was diligent with weatherproofing and made sure to explain a lot of those processes to me as we did them. We used a lot of Tyvek wrap. As much as I love the curtains the Hi-Ace came with, they were going to be in the way, and enough of them were falling apart or in need of parts that I would have to get from Japan, so I resolved to yank them when I got my windows tinted. We also kept pace really well, and I experienced 0 knee pain, which is a miracle. It's 5:45 and we're just starting to cut the pieces for the bed. It'll be 19 inches wide when it's not extended, and then extend out to the width of a twin bed, because twin is all I need. Cheers. Sitting in the passenger seat for the very first time.
With your nice clean floor in the back.
I know, right?
It's a screaming deal, and it runs so smooth.
We were on such a roll and eager to finish the bed that neither of us stopped to see how tall it should be, because unlike a Sprinter, you cannot stand up in this thing. The way we first built it was so perfect for storage and for sleeping, but not for sitting. We learned that the hard way.
That's going to be a little bit of complex carpentry there. I'm not that good at carpenter.
Good luck on your wherever you're going.
My adventure
Yeah, there you
around town.
All right, Shy.
Wow, that's huge. In a good way. I guess I'm just surprised by how well it fills out.
You know what I was curious about is the headroom.
Moves so bright, moving like it's from left to right.